Truth Unveiled here, and today I'm going to be talking about Obama and some of the cryptic messaging that has been going on this past week, as well as share with you some of the unconstitutional executive orders that Mr. Obama has signed into office that give way for the FEMA camps and martial law, literally. So I'm here at the Blaze, and it says, Obama to Howard graduates, profound changes lie ahead for nation's economy and society. Now, Mr. Obama gave this speech on this past weekend, on this past Saturday. Now, it's interesting that he would give this speech and with this cryptic messaging because John Kerry also gave a cryptic speech as well. Very interesting, isn't it? But it was reported and it says, President Obama is advising Howard University graduates that profound changes lie ahead for the nation's economy and society. Now, what profound changes? Because according to Mr. Obama, the economy's doing well. The economy's going well, even though the actual economy itself proves otherwise. But let's just take Mr. Obama's word for it and say that, yeah, the economy really is going well. So what profound changes do you think he's talking about? Let's keep going. It goes on to say, Obama was set to deliver the keynote address at Howard University's commencement on Saturday. Obama's spokesman says the president's remarks will acknowledge the unique opportunity the graduates had to attend one of the finest historically black colleges and universities in the country. Obama also will observe that the graduates are entering an economy and society that's undergoing profound changes. Which changes? And when he says society, you mean what? Getting ready for the new world order? Is it making sense now? It goes on to say, the speech at Howard is one of 3 commencement speeches Obama has scheduled this season. The others are May 15th at Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and June 2nd at the U.S. Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, Colorado. The speeches are Obama's final commencement addresses as president. Yeah, right, because we know darn well what Obama's about to do. We know exactly what they're getting ready for. And what are they getting ready for? You're about to find out in just a second. Now, I'm here at Politico, and I would like to talk about Mr. Obama's new executive order that was just recently signed in. Now, I know this has been reported in many other places, but I would also like to talk about it as well as share with you some other of Mr. Obama's executive orders, by the way, which are all unconstitutional. But this is from Politico, and it says, Obama gets the ball rolling on White House transition. Okay, but it goes on to say, hours after the president ripped into presumptive Republican presidential nominee, Donald Trump, the White House announced Friday that Barack Obama has signed an executive order on the coming presidential transition. The order calls for the establishment of a transition coordinated council made up of assistants to the president on issues like national security, counterterrorism, and economic policy, when we know better than that. But it goes on to say the council will help senior staffers provide the candidates with information that is useful and appropriate as long as providing such information is not otherwise prohibited by law. His order also calls for an agency transition directors council to ensure the federal government has an integrated strategy for addressing interagency challenges and responsibilities around presidential transitions and turnover of non-career appointees. It is the policy of the United States to undertake all reasonable efforts to ensure that presidential transitions are well coordinated and effective without regard to party affiliation, the order reads. Well, why would they even make this unconstitutional order? Why not go through Congress with it like they're supposed to? Very interesting. But then it goes on to say the announcement came after Obama said at a press briefing that the president's job is not entertainment or a reality show when asked his thoughts about Trump becoming the GOP's nominee. But that's exactly what we're seeing. But it goes on to say there's going to be plenty of time to talk about Trump's position on various issues. He has a long record that needs to be examined, and I think it's important for us to take seriously the statements he's made in the past, Obama said. I just want to emphasize the degree to which we are in serious times, and this is a serious job. Mr. Obama knows all about that. He's exactly right when he says we're in serious times. He knows because he's a part of it. This is not entertainment. This is not a reality show. Mr. Obama's right on that as well. He's exactly right. This is not entertainment. This is not a reality show. What are they getting ready for is the question you should be asking yourself all the time. And what is the bigger agenda behind all this should be the question you should be asking. What are they getting ready for is the question. And not only that, but when you read between the lines with some of these unconstitutional executive orders that your lovely presidents are signing into office, then you start to see and understand the bigger agenda and what they're really getting ready for. Because remember, there's always an agenda behind everything. Do not just believe a word they're telling you. But I'm here at All News Pipeline, and it says, and this was reported yesterday actually, will newly signed Obama executive order pave way for final false flag leading to so-called global dictatorship and a new world order? And we're going to talk more about this executive order and actually go to it later on, as well as some of the other executive orders that Mr. Obama has signed into office. But it says, while many have been quick to point out that the latest executive order signed by Barack Obama to ensure a smooth transition between the new incoming president in January of 2017 and his administration is standard and only traditional, and George Bush signed an executive order as well, as we learned in the first video, this latest executive order may be anything but standard and traditional and differs greatly from the one George Bush signed back in 2008 in one major way, as looked at in much more detail below, as we're going to look at, considering everything else that we've been witnessing around the world, including John Kerry's recent statement that graduates at Northeastern University to prepare for a borderless world. And I just did a video on this yesterday, as well as Barack Obama's recent warning to graduates at Howard University to be ready for profound change in our society and our economy, which is what we just went over. Some believe that Mr. Obama's most recent executive order may be preparing for the final false flag in America to bring in the New World Order. You can see the full executive order embedded below, and I'm going to go over it, and I'm going to go over some other executive orders that even prove this to be the case. But it says, and we're going to go to it later, the White House Transition Coordinating Council shall prepare and host interagency emergency preparedness and response exercises. Why would they need to do that if they're just transitioning out of presidencies? None of the other presidents in history had to do that, nor did they host response exercises and emergency preparedness when other previous presidents were leaving office. So why are they doing that with just Obama? That should be the question you should be thinking about. It's time to read between the lines and wake up to this stuff and ask questions, because when you start asking questions, that's when you start finding real answers. But it goes on to say, when this executive order was first released, yes, on a Friday, why Friday? Could have something to do with the EMP? We too believe this was quite normal, as we were aware of the similar orders signed by Bush back in October 2008, soon before the November election. However, once we began researching it, we noticed one major difference compared to the one Bush signed back in 2008, and that difference was that this executive order specifically mentions that the transition team will be involved in the preparing and hosting of interagency emergency preparedness and response exercises as seen in the screenshot of the new executive order above. And we're going to go to that executive order later on. Do they know something that we don't know is the question. And we're also going to go over this executive order that Mr. Obama signed into office too, which is 13603, which talks about how the federal government can take over everything and even enslave you. And I'm not making that up. We're going to go to it later on. Why am I telling you this? Because it's time for you to wake up to what's going on around you and the cryptic, disturbing things that Mr. Obama is doing behind your back if you're not already awakened to it. But it's very disturbing and interesting and suspicious indeed, and I hope you're seeing the bigger agenda. Now, what's also interesting about this executive order is that it was signed in May of 2016, supposedly 6 and 7 months before the alleged so-called new president is supposed to take office. Well, the other executive order signed by Bush came out the month before. So why would they sign this and bring it out 6 months before the alleged new president's supposed to take office? Why would they even do that to begin with? I'm telling you, it's time to ask real cryptic questions, because I'm telling you, it goes much deeper than you think. But this is the actual executive order, and I'm at the White House website, actually, from the Office of the Press Secretary, and it says, Executive Order Facilitation of a Presidential Transition. And of course, it talks about the presidential transition and what they call for. and the sections that they call for. I'm just going to go over it briefly. Now, this section right here, section B, talks about who are the designees or the officials who are to be coordinating the transition, and you can read it on your own. I'll make sure to leave the link below. And then this is what they're to do. They're to provide guidance to executive departments and agencies and the Federal Transition Coordinator regarding preparations for the presidential transition, including succession planning and preparation of briefing materials. Okay, that doesn't sound too bad. Then it goes on to say facilitate communication and information sharing between the transition representatives of eligible candidates and senior employees in agencies in the executive office of the president, including the provision of information relevant to facilitating the personnel aspects of a presidential transition and such other information that, in the council's judgment, is useful and appropriate as long as providing such information is not otherwise prohibited by law, and prepare and host agency emergency preparedness and responsive exercises. Why would they need to do that is the question. And then it goes on to talk about the establishment and what they should do and their designees as well. And it goes on from there, and you can read it on your own time and what they should do. Now, like I said, why all of the preparation? What are they getting ready for is the question. Why would they put that in there anyway to begin with? I'm telling you, this goes much deeper than you think. This is way more cryptic than you think it is, and I hope you see exactly what they're getting ready for. Now, I would also like to go over another executive order that has been passed that many people do not know about, and it's called Executive Order 13603. Obama authorizes slave labor on a large scale on American soil, and I'm going to prove that to you with the actual executive order in just a minute. But I'm here at Investment Watch blog, and it talks about it, and it says slave labor force. According to Executive Order 13603, the president or the head of any federal agency that he shall designate, so aka the United Nations, can conscript persons of outstanding experience and ability without compensation in both peacetime and times of national emergency. I can hear the Obama supporters now as they will write to me and say Obama would never do that, or you're drinking from the Kool-Aid. Well, here it is. You can read it for yourself. Section 502, consultants. The head of each agency otherwise delegated functions under this order is delegated the authority of the president under section 710B and C of the Act 50 U.S.C. App 2160B and C to employ persons of outstanding experience and ability without compensation and to employ experts, consultants, or organizations. The authority delegated by this section may not be redelegated. This means that Obama and his fellow communists can seize any resource, property, or person at any time for any reason, including being able to force that person to perform assigned labor without being paid. That means what? Slavery is what that's talking about. Not only that, but you could look at some other executive orders that even talk about and say and prove and show that the government has the so-called right to remove you, to remove your family, to remove and control your house, control everything, and place you into forced relocation in the event of an emergency. And I hope you're getting that through your head. But also Section 601 also says how the government can go in terms of making you their slave. Section 601, Secretary of Labor. The Secretary of Labor, in coordination with the Secretary of Defense and the heads of other agencies as deemed appropriate by the Secretary of Labor, shall collect and maintain data necessary to make a continuing appraisal of the nation's workforce needs for purposes of national defense. Oh, you mean collect and maintain data like the NSA? Is it making sense now? Upon request by the Director of Selective Service and in coordination with the Secretary of Defense, assist the Director of Selective Service in development of policies regulating the induction and deferment of persons for duty in the armed services. And it goes on from there. And we're going to go to the actual executive order right now. Now, here's the actual executive order from presidential documents. And as you can see, this was signed back on Thursday, March 22nd, 2012. And it says Executive Order 13603 of March 16, 2012, National Defense Resources Preparedness. Now, for some of you skeptics out there who still may say, oh, there's nothing to it. First of all, this shouldn't even be an executive order to begin with. First and second of all, executive orders are unconstitutional. No president has the right to sign it. Mr. Obama included. So why are they signing it and making this into law when they have no right to be doing it to begin with? That should be the question you should be asking yourself and wondering if you're not already wondering that. Know your rights. And for some of us out there, we never had rights to begin with. But let's keep going. It says what? The purpose, policy, and implementation of this unconstitutional executive order. Section 101, purpose. This order delegates authorities and addresses national defense resources policies and programs under the Defense Production Act of 1950 as amended the act. So do you see what your government's doing? They're constantly pushing these so-called acts and all these things through the Jewish Zionists, or the real terrorists, as I say, to do what? To put you into FEMA camps in case of an emergency, stage all these emergencies to displace you from your home. That is what they're getting ready for. Then it goes on to say Section 102, the policy, the U.S. must have an industrial and technological base capable of meeting national defense requirements and capable of contributing to the technological superiority of its national defense equipment in peacetime and in times of national emergency. What national emergency are they getting ready for? Why are they constantly talking about national emergencies in their texts as well as in government documents, even though there's no national emergency, unless they're the ones preparing for the national emergency and doing the national emergency? I hope you're seeing this and not thinking this is some nut job craziness that's going on. No, they're actually doing this stuff. Then it goes on to say the domestic, industrial, and technological base is the foundation for national defense preparedness. The authorities provided in the Act shall be used to strengthen this base and to ensure it is capable of responding to the national defense needs of the United States. And I've already talked about it and done even in my videos that what your government is preparing for what? The zombie apocalypse. The CDC even has a website dedicated and devoted for that. I wonder why. Then it talks about the functions that these agencies have to do in order to prepare for a national emergency. Now, of course, it may all sound good on the surface, like subsection C, which says be prepared in the event of a potential threat to the security of the United States to take actions necessary to ensure the availability of adequate resources and production capability, including services and critical technology for national defense requirements. But my question to you is, when was the United States ever under a threat to begin with? And I know some skeptics are going to say, oh, 9/11. Was 9/11 really done by so-called terrorists, or are the real terrorists that are on the inside of the nation, aka the Jewish Zionists, as well as all of them who are designing these plans to do what? To take over the world for the new world order. Then it talks about the implementation and how they want to implement this plan through the Department of Homeland Security, the same department that has purchased over 1.6 billion rounds of ammunition, and you can look that up on your own time. Like I said, it may sound good on the surface, but what are they really getting ready for? Remember, what are they getting ready for is the question you should always be thinking about. Now, we already talked about this from Investment Watch blog, which is the employment of personnel in sections 502, which is right here, as well as the labor requirements in section 601, which in a nutshell, all of them say what? They all say that what? And in the event of a so-called national emergency, that they have the so-called legal right to not only displace you from your family and put you into a FEMA camp, but also to mandate enforced labor for free and to make you into their slaves for the new world order. While it may not say all of that, it sums that up in a nutshell. You have to read between the lines when it comes to these unconstitutional executive orders, and you can even look them up for more. And I hope you're seeing that with both your eyes open. Now, I'm here at congress.gov, and as you can see, this is from the 114th Congress 2015 to 2016, and this bill is about to be passed. It's called the H.R. 4909, which is the National Defense Authorization Act, or the NDAA, for fiscal year 2017. Now, honestly, all conspiracy aside, and honestly, real talk, why is it that in recent times we're seeing our government like never before prepare for national emergencies? That's all we've been hearing about. We've been seeing that with FEMA on the rise, and we're seeing that with all of these documents and executive orders about national emergencies, national preparedness emergency, national emergency preparedness. Why is it that that's all they're talking about? Let's just be honest right for a second. Why is it that that's all we're hearing about and been hearing about? Could it be because they're getting ready for these things and preparing for it? I don't know. It's only time will tell, but I do know this, they're definitely preparing for bigger things ahead. Just like Obama said earlier, profound changes are coming to the economy and society. I wonder what those changes are, but I'm not going to go over this, but I just wanted to share this with you in the actual text. That what does the NDAA do? It gives your government the so-called right to fund these national emergency centers like FEMA camps and to put you into them in the event of a national emergency. That is what they can do, so to speak. And you can come here and read this on your own time, but this is the bill that they're doing. And the bill is even organized into 5 different divisions: the Department of Defense authorizations, military construction authorizations, Department of Energy national security authorizations, and other authorizations, funding tables, and military justice, because your military also has a role in this as well. They're getting ready for martial law as well, but they have to keep the secrets. They can't tell you that. I wonder why that is. Now, I know I went over this last week, but this was from Obama at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And as you can see, what does he do? The two-finger salute. What does that mean? It means F you in British slang. I hope you're seeing that. That's basically what President Obama is saying and what he thinks about you and America. I hope you see what time it is. And even at the dinner, he's even talked about the end of the Republic and that it would be the last White House Correspondents' Dinner. What do you think they're getting ready for? I hope you're seeing this with both of your eyes open, because it's only a matter of time. It's only going to get worse from here. Please seek Yahuwah and his true son Yahusha. That way all may be well with you. This is Truth Unveiled here. Shalom.